You would make money.
People just trying to start fights on Twitter.
Oh God.
That hey thing that I put out there.
Yeah.
This guy goes, I get both sides of the argument. When everyone around me got less than half a hay crop for 2 to 3 years due to flooding, there wasn't anyone reaching out a hand to pay more to help either. Everyone
Right.
has a decision to make and got to charge what it's worth to not keep it around for yourself. I understand. However, you're paying $100 per ton more or per bale. Like I said, in some select cases, that's not, I understand needing people to reach
That's
out
not
and help
reasonable.
you out.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you, man. But that's my point. It's a circle. We all rely on each other, but it seems like every single year one side gets fucked, they just screw the other side, and then it just keeps. It's a downward
happily.
screw.
And happily,
Yeah.
that's the problem with like this guy here locally.
Yeah.
He was just tough.
Well, and he didn't need to be. I mean, he probably has some more fuel and electrical costs because,
You do.
that's the nature of it. I could see, looking at $25 to $50, maybe more a ton.
And that's what I'm saying. That's reasonable because of the drought
Yeah.
situation, because of the
Right.
higher gas prices, operations. You got to take that into account and then say, hey,
Absolutely.
the other thing too is we're just not producing more this year. I'm gonna have to hike it up a little bit. But if you can
Yeah.
come to the table and say that
But if
honestly,
you double it,
no, they're not doubling it though. They're like triple.
yeah.
Well, if you take a look at what we normally buy hay for, you can average it out at $90 a ton.
No,
In
more
the,
than
or
like
no,
100.
95 for just the hay, and then you got trucking on top of that.
Yeah.
Yes,
So we're up there about $130 to $140 a
Yeah.
ton.
Well,
right?
We've hit 160 in a couple of years, and we're like, oh, that's expensive.
Right. But
But
most of ours that we
350?
buy is dry land grass. And like the guy I talked to who's got irrigated pivots, and he's been doing it for 40 some years. He says, what are you looking to pay? And I said, well, this is what I normally pay. And he goes, man, he says, I can't even put it up for that. I get that because he's got irrigation, he's got pivots, he's got pumps,
That's
he's got,
point.
yeah, no, you're exactly right. And I'm like, you know what? And I said, you and I both know there's a shortage of hay this year. And I said, well, I'm not going to BS you and say, oh, it's not what it is, because it is. And I said, but here's where I'm at. Do not begrudge someone making a profit on what they do. And especially if there are times where they have more of an ability because the market is higher.
Yeah.
I said, but some of that end of that market up there at $450, $500 a ton is insane, and it's usury. But when you're down there like you're at, I'm okay with 200 a ton. I don't like it, but I understand where the market's at, because that's your lower end bringing that up. And he's like, no, you're right. He
But
says, you're absolutely right. And he says, I'll tell you what, he says, call me in 10. He says, call me the 10th of the month, and I'll be able to either maybe or maybe not. And then he's asking for his own purposes, where's it at? Where do I got to take it to? What are the roads like? How easy is it to get in there? Is this a hard haul? Is it an easy haul? Those are all questions he has to ask for his business as well.
Right.
But that's it. Like what spurred all of this was I saw pictures of things on like Facebook Marketplace, and they literally showed a bale, a 1,200 pound round bale for $350, and they said this is what it is per bale. You're gonna have to figure out the trucking on your own. I'm like,
yeah,
if that is not gouging,
that's about $600 a ton
almost
for just the hay.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. Like, we had this conversation with Suzanne. I'm all about capitalism, but now you're definitely, it's not, there's no debate about it. You are hitting ethical issues here because you just want to make a penny. I got it.
Okay.
Hey, you're saying there's issues in the past and stuff and nobody helped you out. No, I'm sure people tried to in a way that could help you through the business, but they're not going to sit there and give you $100 bills. There's a way to make money, but you don't go about expanding on it and taking advantage of other people through your own just cause versus
do you remember what I said in 2014 when we sold our calves?
Yeah, somebody suffering somewhere else for us to make it.
No, that's not what I said. I said at the beginning, when we got $1,500 a head for these calves that we'd been getting $600 a head for the year before.
Yeah.
I said, oh my God, I'd love to have this happen every year. And no more of those out of my mouth. And I heard somebody say, man, these prices are high. They're good this year, but we can't continue to do this. And I went, yep, I don't
Yeah.
want these prices this high because I want people to eat beef every meal,
Well,
not just on their birthday.
it goes back to the end of the conversation, or the end of the thread that I put on there. You're gonna make a great killing this year and maybe next year. But what's gonna happen is you're gonna drive out your customers, and the very people that you rely on to make money will no longer exist, and you will have
Yep.
only committed business suicide to yourself.
Yes.
It's all on you, man. You took advantage of a situation, both economical and environmental, and you screwed somebody else in the short term and didn't look at yourself in the long term. And ultimately it killed both of us.
Mhm. No,
That's right.
I agree.
It's about long-term mutual annihilation when you
But
do
that's
that.
but that's the problem is our culture has gotten to the point where, one, I'm not going to be a decent human being in
Right.
rough times and help somebody else out in understanding. And it's not even helping somebody else out. What it is it's not taking advantage of somebody. There's a difference, because
Right.
everybody understands there's a price that's going to be held this year because of the hay prices and because of the drought. We all have to accept it, whether they like it or not. Either you're going to have to liquidate parts of your herd or something, or dig deep and you pull it out and you make it work. But there's a difference between hiking it up because of those or those economic increases, and there's a difference between going out there and jacking up prices to just try and make a freaking killing this year, because you're not looking long term. It's our generation, it's my generation, and the people who think that they can just go around and they can take advantage of this very short 1, 2, maybe 3 year issue, and they're going to make a killing in that process because all they see is money, 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 money. But they're not looking a decade out and realizing, oh shit, I'm going to end up killing my entire operation because I'm trying to make real good profit this next couple of years. There's no foresight into the future, and it pisses me off because it's what I see in the Army constantly. People are like, we're just going to do it now. I was like, you guys aren't looking forward to the issues that are going to come from this. Everybody says they make fun of the planners because they say secondary and tertiary effects. Well, why? Because there's secondary and fucking tertiary effects to everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, that's right.
You're dead on. And that's exactly why and I've said this before, the late 70s, early 80s, we were okay with, we had plenty of moisture and the conditions were right. Not plenty, but they just lined up where we were able to make hay like crazy, and we did good. People in Glasgow on the High Line had zero.
Right.
And people were jacking the price of hay up. And my grandpa said, your great grandpa said, we're not doing that.
And that's
Those
my point.
people need our help. We are not going to do that.
People then, 40 years ago, were like, hey, we got to do that. But 40 years later, enter today, nobody's willing to entertain that whatsoever. It's, I'm going to take advantage of every situation I can to take that short-term gain.
Well, you know what I think the difference, part of the difference is he was born in 1922. He went through the Depression. He went through goddamn hard times.
Yeah.
He went through making bootleg whiskey during Prohibition just to be able to make it work. Yeah. He also was the World War II part of the Greatest Generation. He was in the middle of rationing. He knew what that was like. He understood what you had to do to work together to get everybody through that for a common goal.
Yeah. I mean, this country hasn't worked together in anything for a long time. So that's probably the last time it did.